Thought it would be fun to do a little how-to video on some St. Patrick's bread. It's kind of a somber St. Patrick's Day for this country and most of the world, but homemade bread tends to make me feel better. So, how do we do St. Patrick's Day bread, you ask? Well, it's a regular bread recipe, and then this lovely green Wilton food coloring. So, I'm going to make a few videos and hopefully successfully splice them together, and then you'll be able to see the magic. So first, let me go to my other view. Our ingredients right here. I'm starting with 1 bowl, although I will be using 3 when all is said and done. Got everything laid out. So first, this is a yeast recipe. Do not be afraid of yeast. It is not too bad to deal with. First, we have the yeast. We're going to put it in. It's about 1.5 tablespoons. And then we have 1/2 cup of sugar. And that's enough for 2 loaves. And then what you want to do is kind of stir it together. Sugar helps the yeast activate and grow, so that's what you want. All right, I'll be right back with water. Next, put 2 cups of hot water or warm water. Now you say, how do I know if my water is hot enough or too hot? This depends on the temperature of the water at your house, of course. But I turn my faucet all the way over to the left and wait till it heats up. And then setting my timer, I let mine proof for 10 minutes. And you'll see what it looks like at the end. But I turn my water all the way to the left till it's hot, and then you should still be able to touch it. It's not going to burn you. Your water at your house might be hotter, so you need to kind of be careful. You don't want it to be too hot. I have never had a problem doing this. I've also never taken the temperature of my water to see if it's too hot. And I've always had great success. So we will let this go for 10 minutes and then we'll come back and see what happens. We are just a little, almost 10.5 minutes later, and you see how it's gotten nice and foamy, and if you could be here, which I wish someone could, you can smell, the wonderful smell of what will become baking bread. Okay, so the next thing we put in 1/4 cup vegetable oil. Make sure a lot of that goes in. Okay, let's mix that up. It's very foamy. It is ready to be dealt with. All right, so I'm actually going to put this over here. It's always good to keep the mess contained. Okay, so we're not adding our food coloring yet. It would be a little bit too difficult. So what we're going to do, this recipe calls for just about, depends on the day, humidity, all that, 6 cups of flour. Now, to do 3 will get us to the point where it's not complete liquid anymore. It's easier. So we're going to put in 1, 2, and I grab it like this, and I just kind of shake. 3. Okay, so this is half of our flour. And when we mix it together, you might be wondering why I'm not using a KitchenAid. Well, I don't own a KitchenAid, and I've managed to entice people with my bread thus far. So, no, but really, if you've been in my kitchen, you know the countertop situation. I don't really have a bunch of extra space, and I've managed to perfect this without a KitchenAid. I guess I just have really strong forearms. Also, playing the piano helps. Okay, so you can tell, it doesn't have to be completely lump-free. That's what the kneading will be for. But it's a lot easier to deal with. Now, what I'm going to do, and I'll cut to do this and come back when I have it divided. I'm going to divide this into 3 bowls as evenly as possible. If you have like an ice cream scoop or something like that, you can literally make it even. Mine is actually dirty, so I'm going to do the best I can. It doesn't really matter because it's all going to get rolled together eventually anyway. I'll be right back. And of course my view, it's too much for one camera view. But this is where it gets maybe a little bit trickier than regular bread. So I divided this into 3 sections, and instead of saying, I know that they're exactly 1/3 each of the recipe, and I can add 1/3 of the flour left, so a cup to each. We're just going to go, say, half a cup at a time until we get dough that feels right. Now, you don't want it to be too sticky. You don't want it to be too dry. Something that I guess takes a little bit of practice and doing it a lot to know that feel that you're going for. So I'm going to get a little bit of flour and just start adding probably about 1/3 cup to each. And we'll see what happens. I'm actually going to get, I have this thing over in my cupboard since I'm working with a handheld. There is, excuse the view for a second. Let me cut it off. I actually have this big, it's almost like a Silpat, but it's, hello Bella. It's a pastry mat, and it's great if I was actually making a pie crust or tart, which I actually hate making pie. I don't know why. But it's very non-skid. So when I stir this, hey look, it keeps my bowl where I want it. Okay, for now at least. So we stir this around. That was about 1/3 cup more of dough. So clearly it's still sticky. We know that we're going to have to add more. And we'll go to the next one. I need to get all the, this is my original bowl, so I've got stuff all up on the sides. So make sure to get all that in. We can also tell that's going to need more flour than the last one. Also more flour. So we come back over. Some things I measure a lot. When it's coming to dough, I'm getting more and more to the practice of just, like I said, because of humidity and just daily conditions, just go until it feels right. So that's getting close. I may have to get my son to help here in a second when it gets too difficult with one hand. Okay. Because your hands really do work the best. Starting to grab around like that. Now before we go any further, and this is the part where it gets a little messy, we're going to get our food coloring. And I actually usually do this the step before, but I realized I just forgot. So it's going to have to be right now. Now if you've ever worked with this food coloring, beware. It's very stainy. Do not get on your clothes. I'm going to add it in and we'll come right back. So I put a little bit in one bowl. This is actually the medium bowl. And you just add a little bit more of the food coloring to each one. Now because I waited until it was mostly dough, this is going to get very interesting. So we're at the point where a spoon is pointless. And we're going to get it off. This means my hands are going to become green pretty much. So we're going to clean the spoon off. And then you're going to want to get in there with your hands. Oh, yep, there's the green. Okay, and we clearly still need flour. Need that food coloring off the bottom too. So what you do, you might think, oh my gosh, what a mess. We just grab flour and you just continue to work until you don't need to anymore. Pull it back a little bit. Okay. So this may end up becoming more of a marbled. That could be cool. All right, I'm going to move my other bowls back and then put it out on this mat so you can see how I knead it. Now to get it off your hands, just, you know, it's actually one of the more fun parts of baking bread, shedding the dough. Okay. My son Bennett is shaking his head in disbelief. I think this part would not be his favorite. Okay, so you put it out here with any extra dough or any extra flour that's stuck inside. Let's go ahead and get that out too. And a little further back. There we go. Okay, we're just going to work this until it's incorporated and hopefully mostly green. Just fold it over and over and over. And when you get to a point where you can add some more of that stuff that needs to be incorporated in, you just do it like that. We're getting there. It's actually better incorporated than I thought. It really does work best if you if you add the food coloring before this point, because it really smoothly mixes in. Okay, so it's just slightly, just barely tacky. Come in close a little bit. I'm going to rise for an hour the first time. We're going to add a little bit more here and see where that lands us. We're going to do the same process on all three of these. Nothing really different. So we will come back when everything is in the bowl rising, and then we'll go from there. This is the light one. Technically that's medium, that's dark. They're pretty similar. That's okay. We're letting these rise for an hour. So and we're going to put a towel over them, and we'll come back and see what's up in about an hour. Our risen dough. We're going to take it out, roll each layer out, and then layer them, and we'll go from there. Each rolled out, and now we layer. Our rolled up, you can see the different layers. I laid them this way, and then I just kept rolling in every direction, and I'm going to try to get this a little bit longer so I can cut it in half, and then I'll be putting them in my long 12-inch by 4-inch bread pans. Inside, is that not awesome? Pretty cool. Let's put them in our pans. Now these pans are so non-stick that I don't need to grease them. They just kind of fall right out. But if you're worried, you can spray the bottom. That dough should not have a problem filling out each of those pans. I usually leave the over the stove light from my microwave on, and it heats up the microwave to just about the perfect temperature for bread to rise in. So they're going to rise for another 45 minutes. The loaves getting ready to go in the oven, and see what I said? They expand to where they need to go. The finished product in about 30 minutes. Final product. My light is going from warm to cool. Very interesting. Anyway, that's what it looks like. Nice and fluffy loaf. And let me know if you have any questions.